Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Cole. Monday night, August 3rd. I like to get these things out on Sunday. We have run late a time or two and gotten them out Monday. So we're getting this out Monday, August 3rd. We've had our third exam over the weekend, and we're into the home stretch of the course now, leading up to our final exam in just under 2 weeks now, Saturday and Sunday, August 15th and 16th. If you haven't noticed, there should be an email in your inbox and an announcement up on the course homepage with the reading assignment for the final exam, which is going to cover Units 7 and 8 on the Supreme Court and Congress. I'd like to remind everybody also, you have the option of doing a term paper. Grades will be due Thursday, August 20th, I believe. So I would like to have any term papers by Tuesday, August 18th at the latest, or a little sooner if you can. But I could take them as late as the 18th. Once again, term papers are not required, but they do give you a chance to raise your grade. So please keep that in mind. I'll be happy to correspond via email with anybody with regard to a research topic that you may be looking at for your term paper. And I would hope that if you're going to do a term paper, that you have gotten underway on that by now. Of course, people do tend to leave those things to the last minute, but it would be a good idea to be underway with it by now if you are planning on doing a term paper. Let me also mention, everybody, the class notes for Unit 7 on the Supreme Court are up. The Unit 8 class notes on Congress are not. The reason for that in the main is that I like to discuss the members of Congress in our area, in and around the Oklahoma Panhandle. We're not sure whether all of them are going to be back after the November election. In fact, there's an important primary election being held tomorrow night, Tuesday the 4th. And I wanted to see the results of that before I finished the Unit 8 class notes. So we hope to have those revised and up on the course website by Wednesday or Thursday. In the meantime, go ahead and look at the class notes for Unit 7. Now, we'll perhaps have a bit more to say about Congress next week. For the time being, say a few words about Unit 7 and the Supreme Court. This is not quite as much subject matter as we'll have for Unit 8 on Congress. Keep in mind, the Supreme Court is only a small part of the entire judiciary system of the United States. Most cases do not make it into the federal court system. You'll have some material at the beginning of Unit 7 about the structure of the federal courts as a whole, of which the Supreme Court is only a part. But the Supreme Court does have the final say over interpretation of the Constitution. And so, if and when it chooses to do so, it can have a very dramatic impact. And from the second half of the 20th century to today, it's had that sort of impact in areas such as desegregation of the public schools and abortion, as with the Brown versus Board of Education decision in 1954 and Roe versus Wade, 1973. And you'll find both of those and a couple of others discussed toward the end of your class notes in the section called Landmark Supreme Court Decisions, in which I discuss 4 important Supreme Court decisions. Let me say a word about your readings for the final exam. You have 2 articles about the Supreme Court. One by Adam Liptak of the New York Times discusses the most recent term in the Supreme Court, which ended just a couple of weeks ago. Generally, it ends in June, but they were held up due to the pandemic, and it stretched into July. So, Mr. Liptak will discuss some of the more important cases, and beyond that, the patterns that people see emerging among the 9 justices on the Supreme Court. Then you have an article by Robert Barnes of the Washington Post that covers some of the same ground, but he also discusses what difference it may make to the future of the Supreme Court, depending on whether Mr. Trump or Mr. Biden wins the presidential election. Then on Congress, you have an article by Carl Hulse of the New York Times about problems in Congress and how they may have been made worse by the coronavirus. Now, the main problem, in the estimation of many people, is that there's not much willingness to work across party lines in Congress. And one of the consequences of that has been that it's taken some power away from the committee system and given it to the leadership of the House and the Senate. In effect, some important legislation is written by the leadership, bypassing the committee system. Now, in my opinion, the root of this goes to the political parties themselves as much as Congress. There's little, perhaps, that Congress can do about all this with the political parties being the way they are. But you'll see some of those issues being discussed by Mr. Hulse in that article about Congress. Many members of Congress have said that in recent years the place has become a less pleasant place in which to work, and this article will discuss some of the reasons for that. Now, finally, you have an article about a member of the House of Representatives from Oklahoma, Kendra Horn. Representative Horn is from Oklahoma City, a district that includes most of Oklahoma City. She is the only Democrat in the Oklahoma delegation, whereas before 2018, when she was elected, or January 2019, when she would have taken office, for a few years the delegation had been all Republican. All our members of the House and our senators were Republican, but that changed when Representative Horn took office in January 2019, and she is the only Democrat in the Oklahoma delegation. Oklahoma being a pretty Republican state, I'm sure the Republicans will be pushing pretty hard to challenge her in this November's election. We just have to see whether she is able to hold on to the seat. But she, as you will see as you read that article, suffers a little bit of a push and pull between what the Democratic Party as a whole wants from her on the one hand, and what she needs to do representing Oklahoma, which on the whole is a very conservative, often Republican state, on the other. And this results in her perhaps being kind of caught in the middle sometimes, as you will see as you read this article through. So those are the articles you're asked to access online and read for the final exam. So begin looking at the Supreme Court material, the class notes for Unit 7 and the accompanying assignment from the textbook, and we hope to have the Unit 8 class notes on Congress up on the course website in a few days. So let me hear from you if you wish about your term paper topics, and we'll be speaking to you again in about a week, and that will be our last video for the term. Then after that, we'll try to chat online before the final exam. So take a look at the Supreme Court material. Take it easy. We'll see you in a week.